I grew up with my grandmother, and she used to always say that breakfast was your most important meal of the day. And she made sure that my brother and I always had a hot breakfast before we went to school. My mother was 15 when she had me, and my father was 17. And it was my grandmother who raised me, and she was kind of still raising my mother and father at the same time. And my grandma, she didn't play. They called her May Bates. You had to get up really early if you wanted to have breakfast. Kind of like Tipping Point. You have to get up really, really early to make it to our breakfast. But in spite of what's going on, we've all made it here today as a community together to share in this extraordinary tradition that we have of celebrating those on the front lines in the fight against poverty.
Growing up, T's parents wanted her to go into medicine, but she had other ideas.
Coming from an Asian household, my parents didn't think teaching was a good job, a good career, because it doesn't make a lot of money. They wanted me to become a nurse. But I didn't have any interest in being a nurse at all. I'm actually afraid of needles and blood and just anything medical related. I've always loved kids. And I remember when I was younger, what I would do is I would take out all my stuffed animals. I would take out all my pillows. I would line it up in a way where the pillows are the desks and tables, and the animals are my students, and I'm the teacher. My name is T, and I work for Parent Child Plus.
Every Monday, T hits the road with a bag of books and educational toys. She's an early learning specialist who makes house calls. Parent Child Plus serves families across the country, meeting them where they're at, literally, and helping them read and learn together. Families get 2 30-minute visits each week. For the first one, T brings a new book or toy. Then she comes back with activities. Last year, with support from Tipping Point and others, Parent Child Plus opened their first Bay Area office in East San Jose. Their mission spoke to T.
I was working as a preschool teacher for about 3 years. And as a preschool teacher, I really love working with children, but I also realized that working with children isn't enough. It was more of the interaction, the bonding between the parent and the child that was more rewarding for me to actually help the family to teach the kids, interact with their kids at home. So I decided to give up teaching just children to teaching both parents and children.
Early learning is critical and unequal. A slow start can create a steeper road through life. More than 80% of the families in Parent Child Plus make less than $25,000 a year. Even before COVID, more than half the parents were unemployed. There are families who've experienced homelessness, new immigrants, refugees. T was born here in San Jose, and like most of the educators at Parent Child Plus, she shares a lot in common with the families she serves.
It's kind of ironic, I would have to say, because growing up in my family, I had to basically learn everything on my own. My parents were immigrants, so English they didn't know at all.
T drives all over the county. Every child she sees is different. Every family is different.
I had one mom who was very shy.
One day the mom confessed to T that she felt awkward talking to her son because he couldn't talk back. She'd say something and he'd just look at her with big, questioning eyes. Week after week, month after month, she felt herself giving up, talking to him less and less.
I told Mom that you have to talk to him. You have to narrate every single thing you do. So for example, if you're changing his clothes, say it. Mommy's taking off your shirt. Mommy's combing your hair. Mommy's changing your diaper. They actually can learn a lot. And during this age, 0 to 5, that's basically the foundation for these children to learn. It's the most critical moment, and it's where they're like sponges, where they absorb everything. Every single time I talk to her, I always remind her that you need to talk to him, because when you talk to him, he's listening. He just might not be saying it, but he'll get there one day.
And then one day, he said it. Mommy.
Parents are basically the children's first teacher, and Some parents, they really have no idea of how to parent or what to do with their children. Other parents just really don't have the resources for it. We want the families to understand that it only takes 30 minutes a day, that interaction for 30 minutes a day, to really strengthen not only the relationship between the parent and child, but to also use that time as a time to teach your child something new. Just spend 30 minutes, sit down, read a book with a child, or just sit there and talk to their child, just narrating what the child's doing. So I feel like it's more about just having the families realize how time is very valuable and how these interactions, they will go a long way.
The pandemic has been hard on everyone. T and her colleagues are on the front lines in ways they never imagined, serving families in crisis, struggling to pay rent. Some families that had already been straining to make ends meet were now on the brink of hunger.
So groceries was an issue. So we actually went out of our way to not only deliver books and toys, but we're now also delivering foods, diapers, milk, anything else that they need. What we do is I drop off the books and toys in the beginning of the week, and then I schedule virtual visits with them.
T can't be right there beside them, but that's actually been okay.
So earlier this year, I started working with a family who has a little boy named Roy, and he is 2.5 years old.
Roy's mom was struggling. Roy screamed, he yelled, he barely talked, but he took to T right away. When she gave his mom a new book, he'd pull it from her hands and give it back. He only wanted to read with T.
But then after COVID happened, I wasn't able to go into their house anymore. So in a way, Roy didn't have me there. So mom was the only one that he had to read a book with or play a toy with.
T tried FaceTiming with them.
And for the first few times when I was on screen, the child got very distracted.
He wouldn't pay attention to his mom or to the book. So his mom started FaceTiming T and then hiding the phone. T would stay quiet, watch from a distance, listen. Roy's language skills blossomed.
He is just talking.
T saw an even bigger change in his mom.
And ever since then, she has been one of the moms who's very creative. She went out of her comfort zone and she came up with all these creative ideas. I remember one of the activities we did was we read about apples. How do apples grow? And then it talks about the different types of apples. There's red, yellow, green. And so what mom did was she actually went to the store. She bought the red, green, and yellow apple. And she cut up all three for Roy and his sister to eat, to smell, to touch, to experiment with. And I thought that was awesome because she was actually going above and beyond.
She told T she was so grateful. Grateful for Parent-Child Plus. Grateful for T. Seeing Roy respond to her and learn and grow, she felt inspired to do more. She'd found creativity and resolve in herself that she never knew she had.
I keep telling her, that's all you. You're the one that did all this. You're the one that followed through with us and you never gave up.
Holidays don't really start for me until the tipping point breakfast. The breakfast and making gumbo for 20 or so people are two of my favorite holiday traditions. For my daughters, they'll tell you their favorite tradition is dressing all of us up in our holiday onesies for our holiday picture, including our dog Chewy. Chewy, if she could talk, would say that her favorite tradition is trying to bury the onesie after we take it off of her. The thing is that when you're living in poverty, hardship is a tradition too. When you do the work that we do, you become painfully aware that the holidays are not a good time for everyone, that there are some people who are having a really hard time. I remember when I ran a homeless shelter for youth in San Francisco. The same thing would happen every year. Kids who've gotten kicked out of their homes for being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender, their families would reach out and invite them back home for the holidays. Well, actually, not the transgender kids. They could never go home. But for the other kids, the family would reach out and the kids would be unbelievably excited to go back and to make amends and to be with their families. However, after the holidays, it was back to the same. The kids got kicked out again, and they would come back to us. And the hurt, the pain. For some kids, it took them 6 to 9 months to work themselves out of that emotional hole. For others, they ended up going back to the street, or worse yet, using again. Quite frankly, the kids that did the best were the ones who had adjusted and said, this shelter, this is my temporary home now. I am with people who love me and people that I love as well.
So I've been living in San Francisco since 1984. I've been in the sort of Central City Tenderloin area for the last 14 years, I would say. And I stayed in a variety of places, from sleeping in my car to sleeping on friends' couches, to sleeping to squatting in an abandoned warehouse, to sleeping in congregate homeless shelters. It was a constant day-to-day grind of survival, and it was humiliating, and it was depressing.
I understand why a lot of people want to throw up their hands and say we can't solve this issue of homelessness. And the answer that we truly know and believe at Tipping Point is that we know what the solutions are. We need to build more housing. We at Tipping Point are funding solutions that work, and we can't give up. We are going to solve this problem together. 833 Bryant is a permanent supportive housing building that was funded by Tipping Point, thanks in large part to Chuck and Helen Schwab and their incredibly generous donation. We're building 145 units of housing. When we started down this path with 833 Bryant, we didn't know all the details of what it took to get something built. And as we dug in and we realized that it would take 6-7 years, it would cost $700,000 to build one unit of permanent supportive housing, we were shocked. And we went asking people why it was this way. And people said, it just is. And we started questioning the status quo, and we started pushing.
Tipping Point was interested in time and cost savings, and they had heard that modular was a way to achieve both of those things. It wasn't innovation for innovation's sake. It was innovation for the purpose of saving time and money.
They had come up with some very innovative ideas, in my opinion, but they needed some philanthropy. They needed someone that would kickstart the thing and put equity into the situation. And it couldn't be public money, it had to be private philanthropy type money. So I raised my hand. I said, I'll be willing to do it if we work out the details as such, and I can see some real innovation that might be possible in this project. And I thought, well, there's nothing too innovative about having a housing unit for somebody. It's how they were able to construct it.
I mean, the best way to describe it is it's sort of conceptually like Legos. And the way that modular works is it basically, conceptually, that overall building is broken down into three-dimensional boxes, which are limited by the size of what can fit on a truck. Like, good design shouldn't be more expensive. And I think the building itself is it will be, when it's built, quite striking. And, you know, I think the design also, you know, it starts with the people who are going to live in the buildings and sort of thinking about their experience of, you know, coming home and how you want that to feel. And it's on a really busy street, which is Bryant, and it's right across the street from the Hall of Justice, which is a big, imposing kind of institutional building that has a lot of negative connotations in the community. And, you know, we were really cognizant of the fact that we had, you know, half of the apartments were going to be looking right at this building. And, you know, we wanted to figure out a way to mitigate that. And what we did was we created a series of bays that stick out that are angled so that the windows don't face directly across the street. They face off to one side and they point towards downtown San Francisco, so there'll be views. You know, I think that that's really important while we're providing these people, you know, some of these people, the first homes that they're going to have in a really long time. And we want to make sure that it feels complete, even though it is compact.
And what we've proven we can do now is get it done in under 3 years and under $400,000 a unit. This is the type of project that can not only change the perception of how we get housing built in San Francisco, but frankly, statewide. And with that, if we can do it in California, you can do it anywhere.
It's really easy when talking about homelessness to kind of get caught up in all the complexities. But in truth, it might just be as simple as building more housing.
This project's not just about 833 Bryant, although we are incredibly proud about what we've built there, what we're building there. But the gifts that Chuck and Helen gave to us will extend for years down the road, and we'll be able to build many more units of housing as we have set this up with the San Francisco Housing Accelerator Fund. So it's almost like a revolving fund, so that we can pull equity out of 833 Bryant, thanks to the fact that the city and county of San Francisco will be renting the 145 units.
I don't believe it's possible to have mental health without housing. In fact, it's really hard to have health without housing. It had a private bathroom and a small kitchenette, not a full kitchen, a kitchenette, which meant a mini fridge and a counter where you can put some hot plates, which I did. I fixed it up nicely with a hanging pot rack and 2 hot plates. And I turned that little kitchenette, even though it didn't have a kitchen sink, it was my kitchen. It was my kitchen after not having one for 15 years. It was my kitchen, and I turned it into that and started cooking. And it was to be able to cook my first meal at home after so long with not having that. I can't tell you what joy and satisfaction that brought to me.
For years, I didn't have the ability to give. I have older kids, and it was my mother and my father who were always scrounging up their dollars to make sure that they had an appropriate holiday season. When you're in that situation, when you're living in poverty, you're always on edge. You're always on edge about what's going to happen next. Something as simple as having a flat tire can push you back. I have to tell you, even when things started to go well for me, that I was always worried. And it took me a long time, like a really long time, to get over that feeling. So now the holidays mean something entirely different for me than they did when I was a kid or even as a young adult. Now, it is my brother and I who are making sure that my sister's kids have a good holiday season. See, for me, the holiday now is truly about the ability to give back. Not to just give a gift, but to give back, to be of service, to be of help to someone other than yourself. I must tell you, because I've been on both sides of the table, that saying that it is far better to give than to receive is absolutely true. To give at the scale that we do at Tipping Point is an amazing privilege and responsibility that I cherish. I feel so fortunate to see what each one of you brings to this community. Your generosity, your talent, your passion. Last year, we made life-changing connections for over 500,000 of our neighbors. That's a really big number. And yet, we've set our sights to do even more. To pave a path of prosperity for millions of people who live in the Bay Area region. I couldn't be more excited about our work together. I couldn't be more excited about our collective gifts. And I am tremendously excited to put all of that to work.
So if I have $5,000, I'll pay my bills up in advance for a few months, 4 or 5 months in advance. I'll pay my rent, PG&E, cable, buy food. I help my moms out just to get back on my feet.
Pues le ayudaría a mi hija a pagar la renta de donde vivimos y todo para comer, ya que mi hija es madre soltera y ella hace cargo de todo.
Probably invested in some kind of transportation to get me around so I can get a job or go to interviews and stuff like that there. Hard times right now. People's in need of all the help they can get.
I lost my job to the pandemic, and it's been hard to make ends meet, and there's like less job opportunities available at the moment.
With $5,000, I would start my own business. My business will be a beauty supply store.
Pagaría un mes de renta que llevo un mes atrasado. Pagaría mis biles.
I'll say I would catch up on bills, you know, like the electricity bill, rent, phone bills, also the car payments.
Well, right now I'm in a bind. I would like to get my house fixed and my car fixed so I can have transportation to get back and forth to work. And I'm in a hard bind right now, and I really need the money if I had it.
And then if I had any extra, I'd probably help out like my mom. She needs help with a couple of her bills also.
If I was to get $5,000, what I would do with it is pay all my bills, number one, and take care of my grandbabies. I have 10 grandbabies, and I would like to help them out, you know, with their living situations and with my living situation. That could help my family a lot, a whole lot.
En primer lugar, me gustaría saber quién me los va a dar. Me encantaría muchísimo porque con eso pagaría los biles que debo y ayudar a mi familia que casi no tienen pues trabajo y tampoco no hay mucha necesidad pues. Y ayudaría a mis vecinos también con esos $5,000 porque es bastantito dinero y sería un regalo enorme, maravilloso.
What would you do with an extra $5,000? If you're a low-income working family, that may be more than a hypothetical question. Here's a little-known fact. Families earning less than $25,000 a year aren't required to file their taxes, and so many don't. But here's another important little-known fact. That same low-income family could receive a check of over $5,000, the Earned Income Tax Credit, every year. but they have to file their taxes to get it. $5,000 annually. That could be a life-changing amount. In fact, research shows that this is one of the most effective poverty-fighting strategies we have. But today, about 1 in 4 people here in the Bay Area who are eligible to receive this money don't get it. Tipping Point decided to dig in. We partnered with the California Policy Lab to test ways to spread the word to people about this benefit. We used Facebook messages, text messages, old school letters. We reached out to over 2 million people. Turns out, the problem isn't awareness. The problem is the filing process itself. It's long and complicated and can be really intimidating. So we kept going. We partnered with Code for America to offer virtual free tax assistance. And recently, we co-sponsored legislation here in California to remove barriers to the filing process. That legislation, it passed. Common sense solutions, all designed to get more money into the hands of hard-working, low-income people.
I had no idea I can do my taxes for free. Plus, by filing and with this program, I was just kind of like, whoa, like, is this real, or is this just like a Christmas miracle?
Well, it was pretty exciting this time because I did it myself, and I can see the amount change. Like, at first you put in your cell phone expenses, and then you put in your dependent, and it just like climbs and climbs and climbs.
And when I got my tax refund, it was huge. It was huge. It wasn't a huge amount, but it was huge enough for me where I'm like, I can sit comfortably for a while. I used that to pay bills, take care of my kids, take care of my family.
And I'm like, oh my God, $7,000. We're getting $7,000 back. I mean, it was amazing to get the money back. We're still actually living off of the money that, because of COVID and all that, we actually are still living off of that money.
My parents came from Mexico.
I'm a truck driver, lead line cook. So we arrive at the Google campus and we serve the Googlers their lunch.
My divorce was finalized. Unbeknownst to me, I'm so used to my ex-husband paying taxes for us. I got scared. I was like, how do I do that? I don't know anything about taxes.
The more that I was able to earn money, the more that I was able to help my parents, either give them $100 for rent or pay their phone bill. They're going to be taken care of, and that's going to be by me.
It was a little hard growing up in the Bay Area. I grew up with 2 of my grandparents on my mother's side, so we were a little impoverished, but my grandmothers made a way. I can say they taught me the lessons of being frugal, learning how to reserve, recycle, stretch.
The shock on my face when I saw a lot of zeros. What do I do with all this money? Like, I've never had a lot of money to myself, ever. You know, newly being a single parent, it was a lot to take in. And I was happy, I was excited. Mom, what do I do with this money?
This opportunity, I feel like it kind of like gave me a breather. Like it's like when you have that weight and then like it just magically, like when you're like relieved and you finally have, you know, like you can take a breath. That's kind of like what it felt like. I felt like I was just very down all the time.
As a parent in whole, it makes me feel like I'm doing something to benefit my children in the long run.
It's like hitting the lotto, like a small portion of the lotto for just a second, you know. It feels good to know that I'm able to take care of the things I need to take care of at the moment. Like I said, car expenses and groceries and things of that nature, not worrying for a minute that you don't have enough. Yeah. We're okay for the moment. We're okay for the moment. We're not struggling. Like all the worries of the world go away just for a minute.
Well, here we are doing this through a screen, but It is so nice to feel connected to all of you. There's over 1,000 of us joining this program this morning, and the stories that we've heard this morning remind me of why this is my favorite holiday tradition, bar none. We need stories of inspiration and hope and optimism more than ever before. And we got that this morning. I know that our team at Tipping Point, our staff, our board and leadership council members used this morning to help us bust through and to keep going during these incredibly difficult times. And so I'm gonna do what I always do. I got my sleeves rolled up. I'm asking you to give, because you all push us each and every year to go deeper, to think bigger. And the reason that we are as successful as we are is because of all of you. And so if there was ever a time to give, these two and my wife Becca, we feel so incredibly fortunate. And I know that if you're watching this morning, you're joining us, you're in a position to give even just a little bit. We need your support so we can continue to do this work during these incredibly challenging times. So I want to ask Taya what your favorite holiday tradition is.
Watching the snowfall and listening to Sawyer on Thanksgiving saying chicken instead of turkey.
Okay.
A lot of the time.
Okay, Sawyer, what's your favorite holiday tradition?
My favorite holiday tradition is eating turkey and watching football and playing football.
Good. All right, we want to leave you with some of our board and leadership council members' favorite holiday traditions.
Every year, it's our family tradition to go around the city in all the different neighborhoods and look at the different wreaths. It's also our family tradition to give to Tipping Point. We know every dollar gets into the hands of people in the Bay Area that need it the most.
Some of our family's favorite holiday traditions are wearing cozy Christmas pajamas, watching holiday movies like
Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman,
and of course giving back to our community by donating to Tipping Point.
Our favorite Christmas traditions are all about treats. On Christmas morning, we bake
chocolate croissants,
and we eat lots of chocolate-covered
peanuts.
But no Christmas holiday season would be complete for us without a donation to Tipping Point.
Thank you for joining us.
Happy holidays!